Hey guys, it's Joel, Sportz Paintball, and today we have Tyler with us. He's one of our loyal customers here at the store. Today we're bringing you paintball news that's happened in the recent few weeks. Hope you guys enjoy this video. Please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel and head on over to punishers.pb.com for all your paintball needs. Alright guys, so as you guys probably noticed, we do have something unique about the shooting today. We are actually in our YouTube studio for the first time ever, and very excited about it. There's definitely going to be some improvements coming in the next few weeks, so bear with us as we make the studio better for all of you guys. But I'm very happy about this, and I think it's going to be great to bring you guys better content. So with that said, we've got Tyler here. The first thing that happened over last weekend that we'd like to talk about is the ICPL, the Classic Paintball League. And Tyler, you actually played in it, right?
Yeah, played with OBR. We actually placed 5th in the amateur division.
That's awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the ICPL? I understand that you guys play other pros, like old pros, new or current pros, and everything else like that, right?
Yeah. So your preliminary games, you start out with facing 2 professional ICPL pro teams.
Okay.
Which include anywhere from like GZ Gold to Los Angeles Infamous. It's great seeing new pros, old pros, up and coming players, and then just watching the whole difference with the active pros. Yeah. And just how they communicate, how they work together. It was an awesome ran event.
Cool, that's awesome. And from what I understand, it's all mechanical.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
So one of the things that we'll talk about here later in the segment is a big product that we found at the ICPL with some pictures, the new Shocker. So you guys placed 5th. Did you guys beat any pros?
Yes, so we actually beat GZ Gold, and then it ended up in a 1v1 with myself against Fight Club, and we ended up tying with both capturing a flag and then just letting time run out to get the most points.
That's awesome. And it's in the woods, right?
Yep, woods and Hyperball.
Very, very cool. Very cool. Who won?
Cap Factory.
Cap Factory. Who's on Cap Factory?
Ryan Moorhead, Chad George, just some pro gangsters out there.
Okay, so the Houston Heat boys, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Okay. Very cool, very cool.
Tyler, I got a question for you. When you're out there playing ICPL and you're going against pros, you're intermixed with people who are pro and probably as low as D3. It's a really wide mix. Are the pros the ones who dominate every game, or are there some kind of surprise come from behind players that have never been pro? What's the mix of talent look like?
So there's definitely, in my opinion, a lot more balanced with playing mechanical and airball. Airball is pretty much the same thing. You can run that same layout weeks on end until the release of the tournament. With woods ball and mechanical, it's that field. That's how it's set up at the woods ball field, or like the legendary zipper field we played at Badlandz. It definitely evens it out a lot more, and there was definitely a lot of upsets that we've seen with those first 2 games that every amateur team played pros. There were some upsets of amateur beating even professional airball teams currently, just because it kind of just balances everything out.
It's kind of cool to see. It's kind of cool to see that the playing field be leveled like that. It's actually really neat. I think that's probably the draw that a lot of people like about the ICPL.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanical craze has been a huge thing in the last, probably a year or 2 or something like that. You're really into the mechanical side of things.
Yep.
You tech autocockers and all that kind of stuff. You shoot a Shocker CVO, correct?
Yeah, the Adrenaline
Edition. So it is really cool. Yeah, I mean, for sure, 100%. So next on the list, we have NXL World Cup is coming up. Very excited about that. I'm glad that this will be the second NXL event that's actually happened all season long because of COVID restrictions, and that's going to be November, what is it, Doug? 11th to the 15th, I think, is World Cup.
I think so, yeah.
We'll be covering it, but real quick, what's your prediction? Who's winning?
I'm biased with Seattle Thunder. After watching them at Mid-Ohio, their communication's key. They've been killing it. I'm going with Thunder.
And you're good buddies with
Patty
Gleason, correct?
Yeah.
You follow his fitness program.
His fitness program,
stuff?
Yep.
Okay. Off the leash?
Yep.
Off the leash lifestyle, right?
Yep.
Okay, so very cool. Okay, I'm gonna say Houston Heat. You gotta say Houston Heat. Like, I mean, I've been watching those guys. Those guys have been drilling really hard in the off season. So I think, or well, the off season or whatever you want to call it this year.
The mid-off season.
Yeah, right.
It's a quarantine season.
The no season. So I think Houston Heat. I'm calling Houston Heat. I think like it's hard to argue with the favorite. I like those guys. I know some of them personally, and I just think that they've been working really hard for it. So I think that
They're going on their three-peat?
That would be a three-peat.
Yeah, that would be a three-peat. Yeah. So, but
sure
who
they're
knows? I
hungry
mean,
for
Russian Legion might show up to surprise some people.
I mean, the finals the last 2 years in a row have been Legion versus Heat, so I mean, it'd be awesome to see that again.
Yeah, and I remember watching it 2 years ago in person.
Oh.
And Russian Legion, the first few points looked like they were just going to completely crush Heat, and then Heat, in typical professional fashion, came back and brought them within the reins. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
now my question is, as far as the experience of World Cup as like a divisional player, or even as someone who just goes to watch it, how do you think that's going to be different this year with COVID?
Smaller.
Yeah,
smaller. I think the teams right now are significantly, the amount of teams that are paid and registered is going to be smaller. I know that some of the vendors, from what I've heard at least, some of the vendors might not show up. I think that from what I've heard through the grapevine, I don't believe that GI or Planet Eclipse are going to have a large booth, which is very unfortunate for those people that this will be their first World Cup. They're not going to get the experience of every single vendor with a huge tent and everything else like that. But other than that, I think it'd be really cool for those people. Like Doug, have you ever been to Cup?
This will be my first World Cup.
So Doug's playing. We're all playing Division 4 X Ball this year, so I'm really excited for that, to see these guys have that experience. Plus, it's just really cool. You're playing paintball on Thursday and Friday when most people are working.
Yep.
That's the draw of playing NXL World Cup. Is it's just like you're playing in the middle of the day, man. It's like everybody's dream, right?
Yep.
So. All right, so our main headliner for the week, as probably a lot of people have heard, GI Sports, the big umbrella company for a lot of the smaller companies, including JT, Timmon Paintball, Spider Paintball, Empire Paintball, has claimed bankruptcy. They are a Canadian company. And something I like to mention before we get into this at all is that we're a lot of this is just what we've heard. To the best of our knowledge, this is what we know. So they filed Chapter 15 bankruptcy, okay, is the way that I understand it. Chapter 15 is different than Chapter 11 and Chapter 7. Chapter 7 means that you cease to do business. Chapter 15 is basically they're securing their assets within the United States, meaning their warehouses, their inventory, and all that stuff. So I've spoken with GI. GI is saying that it's not really going to change their day-to-day operations, which is promising. I know that there's a lot of animosity out there about GI Sports, but I think that regardless of how you feel about GI Sports, it's very important for them to stay in business because they own such a large aspect of beginner paintball, which is very important and crazy.
Yeah, it's. I mean, growing up, it was Tittman GI at my local field.
Yeah,
and hearing this is just. It's insane.
Yeah, so it was $29 million in debt.
Yeah.
And what have you heard, Tyler?
From what I heard, it's more of just a restructuring. It's not actually like the company is just flat out, they're done making paintball equipment and they're just going to disappear. It's more just a restructuring. Again, from what I've heard, from what I've read, all speculation. There's not much more than that. I mean, it's just more restructuring and not an actual closing of a huge company.
Exactly.
Which I think a lot of people, when this first came out, Monday? I think it was Monday.
Yeah, it was like Monday or Tuesday.
That was this week. Everything I was reading on social media was GI shutting down. GI shutting down. It's over. It's done.
People are quick to be dramatic sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. So, right. They're restructuring their debt, basically. $29 million in debt that they did not foresee being able to pay back. So they're restructuring things. With that, the only thing that is now another piece of speculation is, are they possibly going to sell one of the brands that they own?
Right.
And who knows? That's going to be what I'm interested in ultimately is, if they were to sell off a brand to somebody, how's that going to affect business and everything else like that? So But needless to say, that is our headliner for the week. All right, last piece of news, something that has been like baffling the paintball world for the last,
Month.
2 weeks to a month.
Once little pictures start dropping everywhere.
Yeah, right, exactly. It is the product that people saw at a few events over the weekend, MSXL as well as ICPL.
Also
ICPL was a new Shocker. New Shocker. We had released a speculation video probably a few weeks ago about it because we did see a picture of the pros using it down in Texas. And now we saw a picture of Chad George, Ryan Moorhead from ICPL using it. And one thing I'd like to point out is that there was a CBO frame to these guns because it's a mechanical event. So,
it's definitely going to lead to believe that they're going to do again the electric and mechanical, giving it the best of both worlds with the Shocker, just like the XLS.
Absolutely. So that's one thing that we noticed was obviously there's a mechanical version as well as electronic version. Saw some pictures of the electronic version being used, and we'll put that up here on the screen. We'll put both of those pictures up here on the screen. But one thing, probably the most noticeable thing, and obviously the other thing that happened actually earlier today, was that Shocker themselves released a teaser photo of it. So it's like, it's out there, it's happening, the milling is different, so it's obviously not the same gun. Right? And Q, you brought up a good point, which is something about the actual picture that Shocker released, which is what?
So the actual picture, if you look, when they pulled the bolt, it's a completely different milling, which leads me 100% to believe it's a completely redesigned bolt for the Shocker.
Which would be huge, right? That would be the main selling point of a new Shocker. The question is like, what's going to be, like Doug, for example, you had mentioned the possibility of it being more efficient. So that would be definitely a selling point to it. The other thing too is the back. You had mentioned.
There's, from what I see, no button, and with me running the Adrenaline, it looks exactly like the Adrenaline, which leads again me to believe it's going to be another twist and pull, just like the Adrenaline CVO and XLS.
You mean no latch button to release the bolt is what
to
you're referring to?
Twist it, pull it out.
Pull it out. So
no more button to actually eject it.
Yeah. So needless to say, that's super exciting. And in the description of that photo from Shocker Paintball, they said, "Is everybody ready for World Cup?" So obviously, it's going to be released at World Cup. Shocker/DLX always releases their products at World Cup. So very excited for that. Stay tuned, everybody, to our YouTube page, as we will be releasing whatever ends up happening. We'll be releasing it, within the same day that it happens. So very excited about it. I love the Shocker platform. And obviously you do too.
My first real electronic gun, the RSX.
There you go. So alrighty, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the paintball news that's happening in the world over the last few weeks. One thing that we'd like to mention, new product releases that have happened recently have been the Pro Toys Speedster loader that is carried by Planet Eclipse. We just did a YouTube video on that, so head on over to our YouTube channel, check that out. The other thing that I'd like to mention, really the only other big release that's happened, is actually Aspire 4 color kits are now a thing. So those will be available here at PunishersPB.com shortly. And with that said, I hope that you guys enjoy the paintball news. It's a little bit something different that we decided to try, and we will see you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe.